Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to React with Paul. Today we're going to be reacting to how Marvel destroyed itself. Now, before we get into this video, guys, I do want to encourage everybody to go to my Patreon. Here's what you'll be getting if you go over to my Patreon. What? Yo, man, just like show off my abs.
As in the summertime, stars in the sky, one dime for a first.
I'm the red light. Dancing on the thin line.
Nice. Gosh. Nice.
사사라이 울어서는 아니 됩니다.
싫다! 그 버리지 뭔지 하기 싫단 말이다!
너는 여기서 멈출 텐가?
Nice.
원하던 것이 영리해. 다시 돌아올 수 없어도.
Alright guys, well, now that you know what you'll be getting, I hope everybody goes and joins. I know it has nothing to do with like Marvel or DC or anything like that. It's just music videos, but I hope you guys go and join anyways. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and watch this video, guys. Let's go.
When Marvel released Avengers Endgame in 2019, it was the epic peak of the MCU.
Yeah.
The movie brought together every superhero in the cinematic MCU into one universe-wide battle, and fans couldn't wait to see how the Infinity Saga would end.
Rarely do you get an opportunity as a filmmaker to work on movies that are cultural events like this.
But after Endgame, Marvel had a problem. This happened to Iron Man.
You can rest now.
And Captain America turned into this guy.
Maybe I'll try some of that life Tony was telling me to get.
For the first time in more than a decade, the MCU was a clean slate. So what was next?
There are more projects in less years because of all the amazing stuff we're now allowed to do on Disney+.
Yes, we got a lot of content fast. Marvel released 10 movies and 10 miniseries in just 3 years.
I think that's where they messed up. Because you gotta look, Iron Man, Captain America, all the first like movies that they really made, they were slow. They took their time and filming them, trying to get the details down packed. It just seemed like they rushed them. I mean, 10 movies and 10 shows in 3 years, that seems a little bit rushed.
Yet, strangely enough, it feels like all the content is going nowhere. But why? For years, Marvel cultivated the characters of their main franchise heroes, namely the leaders of the superheroes, Iron Man and Captain America.
See what I was talking about.
When we first met Tony Stark, he was nothing more than an irresponsible, rich playboy. But then, he gets a wake-up call. When he's kidnapped by terrorists, it forces him to start becoming more responsible, and we see him take control of his life.
I am Iron Man.
As we see Iron Man more and more, we watch him struggle with his major flaw, selfishness. But over time, we see him grow, like the time he decides to sacrifice himself by grabbing a nuke and sending it through the portal to save New York City. Here, Tony was no longer the guy who would always put himself first. Tony matures over time, even helping heroes like Spider-Man. By the time we see him in Endgame, he's willing to sacrifice everything to save the people that the world lost in Infinity War. In an ultimate act of selflessness, with limited options left, he sacrificed himself. Marvel introduced Steve Rogers as Captain America not long after Iron Man, but he was almost the exact opposite of Tony. He wants nothing more than to sacrifice himself for his country during World War II.
Come on, there are men laying down their lives. I got no right to do any less than them.
But he isn't healthy enough to be a soldier. So he takes an experimental serum to make him strong, and he sacrifices himself to take down a plane carrying weapons of mass destruction.
Steve?
He survived, of course, and we saw him take charge and become a confident leader. But when the arcs of Iron Man and Captain America concluded, Marvel had to find new stars for their franchises. Like Falcon, the former sidekick to Captain America. He was a familiar face, but we didn't learn much about who he was, besides a veteran with a troubled past.
You lose someone? My wingman, Riley.
Then, at the end of Endgame, Steve passes along his shield to Falcon. Suddenly, a sidekick was supposed to become Captain America. But how would Marvel transform Captain America's friend into Captain America himself? Enter a new miniseries, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. From the first episode, we do get to know Falcon a little better. We see more of his backstory and his family life in his home state of Louisiana. But the central issue of the series is Falcon's reluctance to accept the Captain America shield and fill Steve's place.
I remember that.
Feels like it belongs to someone else.
Falcon was afraid he couldn't live up to Steve's legacy, but the series establishes this problem almost too well, to the point where they can't stop mentioning Steve and how special he was.
That's true.
Steve represented the best in all of us.
Steve did not put you in jail.
But there has never been another Steve Rogers, has there?
Most of the series ends up focusing a lot more on who Steve was, instead of who Falcon is or will become.
Yep, I think that's where they messed up.
So when he finally does accept the shield near the end of the series, it feels rushed. The moment feels like a letdown because it's missing a key element that both Iron Man and Captain America had in their first movies.
You've got to do better.
A dramatic wake-up call when they decide to become the hero. Tony was kidnapped by terrorists. Steve sacrifices his life, but Falcon almost just wandered into the decision. Like he made the choice off-screen and then told us about it. And
that's true. That's messed up, though. They didn't put a lot of detail into it. They didn't think it through correctly. She got a point. She's really got a point.
In a way, it's still about Steve.
It doesn't matter what Steve thought.
So Falcon ends up feeling like he's still a side character for most of his own series. And after Endgame, a lot of new characters entered the MCU, like Shang-Chi, the Eternals, and the Marvels.
I've seen the Eternals. I haven't seen Marvels yet, though. Or Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi, I haven't seen that either.
But with these characters, it feels like the MCU is aiming for quantity over quality. Before Endgame, Marvel had a storyline centered around 6 major heroes who made up the original Avengers. Marvel focused on developing these key heroes, so we became more invested in them, and it was a lot easier to get behind them.
That's true.
Kevin, you put us in a position where we lived our lives looking at each other in the eyes and playing these big stakes moments and being in trouble together and saving each other and worrying about each other.
Now there are a lot of characters to go around, but there's no Iron Man figure to lead Marvel into a new era, or a Captain America figure to unite the heroes. And the issue isn't that the characters aren't interesting. Take Shang-Chi, for example. He was just a normal guy until we learn he's the son of a terrorist leader. We see him transform from a guy who ran away from his problem as a teen to a determined man ready to take on his father to protect a village.
You trained your son to be a killer. Is this what you wanted?
It was great, at least as a standalone movie. The problem is that we aren't seeing how Shang-Chi's character is relevant to any other characters in the MCU. Since it was released in 2021, none of the other movies and shows have even referenced it. The MCU sets itself apart with its commitment to its multi-phase structure that makes all the characters intertwine across the series of movies. That's why the MCU became so unique.
You know, the truth is, when we were doing phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, there were less projects over more years.
The crossover...
Bingo. Less projects over more years. Bingo. That's the golden platter right there. You want to get details into your movies. Don't rush them.
Events gave characters more interactions, good and bad, and it made them a lot more interesting. No two characters showed this better than Iron Man and Captain America themselves.
No trust. Fire.
As the two strongest forces of the Avengers, they butt heads regularly from day one.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off. What are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
They're just...
I remember seeing that part in the movies. That was amazing. Tony Stark, gotta love him. Gotta
Take
love
that
him.
off. What are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Their disagreements come from their differences in character. Tony's stubbornness often gets in the way of Steve trying to lead.
Stark, we need a plan of attack. I have a plan. Attack.
Steve calls out Tony for not being willing to sacrifice himself for the sake of others.
You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play. To lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you.
I think I would just cut the wire.
This is where all their problems started. It led up to Civil War.
They even end up fighting each other in Captain America: Civil War. The conflict brought us emotional scenes like this.
I remember seeing that. That was so messed up.
It was moments like these between major characters that made us feel so invested in the MCU. And the growth between the characters led to unforgettable moments like the heart-wrenching goodbye between Spider-Man
Oh, that sucked. I remember that. That sucked, man.
and Iron Man. But after Endgame, the movies haven't brought the characters together enough to show how they develop together. Right now, the characters are all on their own paths. Sometimes it doesn't even feel like they're in the same universe.
She's right. She's right. It doesn't seem like it.
And the superheroes aren't the only issue. A big part of making the MCU work is having a strong central villain character, like Thanos. Thanos made an appearance 7 years before Endgame in the first Avengers movie. And for years, the MCU carefully set up the plot of Infinity War and Endgame with the placement of the Infinity Stones and other connectors. These all pointed to a looming battle with Thanos. Now, a new villain has entered the universe, Kang.
But isn't he out of the series, though? Like, I heard something happened to him in real life that the MCU is not taking him back, so we'll see what happens.
There's only one problem. We've only seen him in one movie, and we haven't seen any connections between Kang's story and the rest of the characters in the MCU. So, right now, there's no big reason to rally behind the heroes. The question remains, will they ever have a moment as powerful as this again?
I hope so. I really hope so. I hope so. I hope so.
This again? Or will we be left asking after every new release,
Iron Man.
what's the point?
Alright, well, my thoughts to this video. She made sense. A lot of things that she's saying, it just makes sense, guys. Like, the MCU, they started off strong. They just lost it. They lost it. They lost their path of doing things. She was right. In the beginning, they all centered around a group of people. They had backstory to each of them and everything. They did it more detailed about each Avengers against each hero in the Avengers. You know what I mean? So there was like a sense of, you know, these people. You're attached to them. You know what they are. You know what they stand for. So it made every single hero like relatable. Now Marvel seems like they're trying to rush things, so it's less details, less backstory, so it doesn't make you feel like as connected to each character. So yeah, I think that's where Marvel messed up. They just rushed it. I hope they start off clean again, and I hope they make the magic happen like they did with the Avengers, Iron Man and Captain America. I hope they make the magic happen again. Alright guys, well, if you enjoyed my reaction to this video, you guys already know what to do. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, and also put a comment down below what you thought about this video or any other videos that you guys want me to do. Well, until next time, fam, later. La 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 la. you and your deep voice, Felix. Oh, she's coughing again.
안녕, 인천댁.
Yes. Nice.